This is Beyond the Shadows podcast. And if you're here, I appreciate it. And if you could take the time to just hit the like or follow or subscribe button, it would help this show out tremendously. We have no sponsors. We have no ad revenue. We only run ads based on the platform we're streaming on currently. But for us, we have no budget. We have no money coming in. So every single thing that you guys do to help this podcast helps me personally. I do all this by myself. And if I could get you to take just a minute out of your day to hit that like, hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously. We're doing whatever we can to increase our exposure out here. And if you could take your time out of your day to do that for us, it would be very grateful. It would help us continue doing what we do and creating the best content possible. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the show.
A creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Whoa, I wasn't 100% ready. Geez, I was tabbed over trying to do some more stuff, some last minute stuff. Geez, shame on me. I'm trying to get the last little bit of the assets ready for this week's episode. Oh, geez. Yeah, I still got a bunch of freaking windows open. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hello, friends. Welcome in. Welcome in. This is Beyond the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Victus. Usually I have a nice little opener ready to go, but I saved all of my photos for tonight's episode on my laptop and not the desktop. So I'm a little off now. A little tiny off, just a little tiny bit. We're almost ready to go. Jeez Louise, how is everyone doing tonight? Wow, I can't type either. I pride myself on being prompt, so I would rather go live early and not be ready than to go live late. All right, I've got a cold opener ready for you guys. Here we go. Hold on. Let me kill this. Let me kill it. We got sounds. Let's do this. This week on Beyond the Shadows podcast, we uncover the chilling mystery of the lead masks case. 2 men found dead on a hillside in Brazil in 1966, wearing strange lead eye coverings and leaving behind cryptic notes. Was it a tragic experiment, a bizarre ritual, or evidence of UFO contact gone wrong? Join me, Victus, as we peel back the layers of one of the most unsettling and unexplained deaths in modern history. This week, we are researching the lead mask's death, UFO on the hilltop. Yes. Yeah, we're back. There we go. This is right where we need to be. Good deal. We are back on track, everybody. There's your cold opener. Don't mind the mess. I'm currently reorganizing the office a little bit. If you notice, everything has changed. Everything. It doesn't even look like the same set as last week. playing around with a few things, trying to decide what fits, what doesn't. I want to make the show visually engaging as well as orally engaging, A-U-R-A-L, orally engaging. So I'm doing my best here. I'm a one-man show, so please bear with me. If this kind of silliness bothers you, sorry. I'm grasping at straws here. I'm doing my best to bring more views in. And if it's going to take me playing a gif of a cat with big eyes in the background, then so be it. So we get a doozy this week. It's a wild story. For those of you who were last week, we had some issues with our redemptions. I got the redemptions fixed. We're back on track. Brought a couple more of them back online. We got some custom redemptions for those of you listening on Spotify or YouTube. The redemptions are something that can be done to interact with the stream directly while we're live every Sunday evening on Twitch. So if interacting with the stream sounds fun to you, make sure you go to twitch.tv and set up an account. Come on over and find us on Twitch, and you can use your points that you gain from watching the show live to interact directly with the podcast. We've got some little videos that play, and we've got some small animations that'll pop up and things like that. And then we also have some animations that pop in when some people rate us, or we get a new follower or a new subscriber. So many things that can happen. So many things. I'm doing my best to make it as interactive as possible. So it has been a busy week for me. Only got one day off this week, and it is today. I struggled real hard to get this week's episode going, making sure it sounded good. I want to take the moment to formally apologize for last week's content. It was not great. It was not great. I am so sorry. I work 6 days a week, and usually I can swing it to where I get a 1 day off a week. I'm good. But it just finally got to me last week, and my last week's episode wasn't great, so I apologize for those of you that listened and decided it was a little lackluster. We didn't lose any followers or anything, but if I recognize the content wasn't great, then surely everybody else has too. So thank you for sticking with us, folks. Yeah, last week's episode was a little weak. I thought it was going to be fun. I thought we were going to try to have some fun, crack some jokes, but it just didn't happen. Nobody showed up for the stream, and it was just a little rough. It was a little rough. But that's neither here nor there. That's the past. We're moving forward. So this week we're talking about the lead mask, the Brazil lead mask case. This also deals with a little bit of true crime, and we're also dealing with UFOs and alien abductions as well. So this one is peak high strangeness. It is out there. It is way, way out there. It is a very strange tale, and we may end up turning this into a two-parter. I don't know. It's hard to say. Anything could happen at this point. I'm gonna take my time and really make sure that this gets read correctly this week. And if it turns into a two-parter, then so be it. But before we get into it, we do have two small segments to take care of this week. We have this week's paranormal news, and we have the other segment that I'm very excited about. But first, we have this week's news and paranormal. So this week's news and paranormal, as of September 21st, 2025, coroner confirms paranormal investigator's natural death. The Adams County coroner confirmed the paranormal investigator Dan Rivera, who died suddenly in Gettysburg in July while on tour with the notorious Annabelle doll, died of cardiac-related natural causes. Rumors suggested a supernatural cause for his death have been largely debunked. The coroner stated that Annabelle doll was not in the room with him at the time of his passing. Nightline covers YouTube's Ghost Club Paranormal. ABC's News Nightline recently featured a YouTube series called Ghost Club Paranormal on its September 15th broadcast. The episode highlighted the team's investigation of an old painting and a spirit they believed is connected to it. Nightline also covered a crew's visit to a reportedly haunted jail where the lead tour guide recounted unexplained noises and paranormal tugging. Paranormal tugging? Is that what we're calling it these days? Paranormal tugging. Ugh. Further news, PBS to air a new documentary, Smile for the Dead, is set to premiere on PBS October 19th, 2025. The film explores the 19th century spirit photography of William Mumler. It delves into how these spectral images impacted a grief-stricken post-Civil War America and the effect they had on those who believed in them. And of course, the final Conjuring movie gets a release date. Warner Brothers has set September 5. Wow, old news. We already have this one. Wow, way to go. Yeah, we already have the new Conjuring movie. Yeah. So I dropped the ball there. Sorry, not sorry. But that is this week's news in paranormal. I need to set this to like fade out. So it's not just a sudden clap of silence like this. Yep, the end.
I'm following you, but it didn't even notify me.
Oh, geez. Shark, how are you? How are you? I love how as soon as the music stops, we get the fuck. Hello, friend. I'm glad you're here this evening. So very glad to have you with us. Round of applause for Shark for being here tonight, everybody. Round of applause. So very glad you're here.
I'm managing, and our thanks.
What are you doing? You sitting at home? You at work? I don't know. Are you still doing? You're not doing the other thing. You moved on to something new. I don't know what your work hours now are, so I'm glad you're here. I'm playing with some new sets tonight. I completely reorganized the office this morning, and I'm going for my sweet 90s vibe.
At home. Yes, new job. I'll be off Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays.
Fantastic. So we can expect you here every Sunday, just saying.
Well,
Well,
I'll have to find a second job, maybe.
oof. Second jobs are no fun for
try.
anybody. I hope the best for you. You know I do. We're having so we haven't had you on the podcast in a little
Sunday
while. Oh, okay. I mean, don't stress yourself to get Sundays
Thanks.
off. Just
Yeah.
don't stress yourself to get Sundays off, just for my sake. But do what you need to do for yourself. Take care of yourself first and foremost. This is always important. You gotta take care of yourself. It's true. It's facts. You gotta take care of yourself. So yeah, we haven't had you here in a little while. Geez, the format's changed. We're down to just me hosting now. But that's okay. Tonight we are going to discuss the lead mask deaths. It's a UFO related case out of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro tonight, where two. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you about it. You just have to wait and see. But I'm glad you're here. But we do have one more segment before we get started, and it is my favorite, and I make sure to carve time out every single week for it. And it starts with a question. A very, very important question. What shirt are you wearing today? So as is custom on this podcast, every Sunday when we do this live, I do my best to wear a different shirt every single week. And tonight I have a very, very special shirt on. Let me take you back, way back to like 1991, back when my dad couldn't afford a babysitter, and he would send me to go to my aunt's house when he would go to work at like 5:30 in the morning. And I was awake at this point, so I just stayed up, and my aunt had cable, which I did not have cable. So I would scroll through her hundreds and hundreds of channels. And one day I came upon this anime, and it was my favorite anime for years and years and years. And I didn't until just recently find it again. And I've become re-obsessed with it, and it is one of my very favorites from a very, very young age. It's called Samurai Pizza Cats. Absolutely love it. And this shirt, let me show you this shirt. This was a special early birthday present. Check this bad boy out. Yeah. I'm very, very happy about the shirt. I've been wearing it for the past 3 days.
I know that one.
Yes, it's a great one. It's a great one. They only ran for like a season and a half, but there's like 50 episodes. It made for a really interesting show. I loved it. I still love it. It's very interesting, and I did a little happy jump when I got it as an early birthday present. It's still one of my very favorites. I love this show, and I will always love this show. And thank you to my wife for this wonderful birthday present. Early birthday present, but still, all the same. That being said, we got a guest in the studio tonight. It's called a bottle of wine. Oh boy, we're gonna have fun tonight. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun tonight. I broke down all of my collectibles that were on the wall behind me. And whilst going through my collectibles, I discovered a My Hero Academia collector's edition cup. I was like, you know what? It's just sitting on the shelf, so let's go ahead and use it. So now I get this sweet collector's edition cup that probably shouldn't have left its box, but I don't care. I had to clean this. I had to clean up the studio. It was looking rough. It was looking really rough. Not gonna lie. This is the neatest the office has looked in a very long time. And we're gonna change. You know, some things are gonna change a little bit more here and there. We're gonna try to do something more with this furniture down here. Yeah, that's for anybody's wondering. The white case. This is my uranium glass collection down here. Glass that's literally infused with radioactive material, and it glows. It's fun. The green light is not a green light. In fact, it's a black light shining on the glass. So that's all radioactive material behind me. And here I wonder why I haven't been feeling good all day. Oh boy, I haven't had wine in a while. Here we go. We're going to get stupid today. We're going to get stupid. Oh, jeez. Oh, nuts. We are going to get stupid tonight. Let me check our email real quick, see if we got any new followers on YouTube. Nope. We did do a live video on YouTube for the past 72 hours. By the time we turned off the stream tonight to prep for this week's podcast, we had 177 views, so we did pretty good on that one. So thank you to everybody that watched that. I hope you all came for more than just the live show, and I hope you enjoyed it. It was good quality content. But we're going to move forward. We got the smoke machine set up tonight. Let me see. I think I could blast this thing off one time. Oh wait, no, I think I gotta add some smoke juice. No, it's full. It's full. I don't know why it's not letting me. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Here we go. We're gonna smoke this thing up right quick. We're gonna get some smoke going. We're gonna get it spooky. We're getting spooky in this bitch. This is Season 2, Episode 36. The Lead Mask Deaths. UFOs on the Hill. They were found lying side by side on the slope of a remote hill outside Rio de Janeiro. Each man dressed in a suit, each man wearing a waterproof coat, each man with a strange, hand-cut lead mask covering his eyes. They had no visible wounds, no sign of a struggle, no evidence of poisoning, just two dead men on a ridge known as... I am not good with Spanish names. Morro de Vintém. Morro de Vintém. And by their side, a cryptic note, scrawled instructions that read more like a preamble to a ritual than anything meant for the living. It read, "Be at the place at 16:30. Take capsules at 18:30. After feeling the effects, protect metals. Await signal. Mask." It's the kind of message that raises more questions than answers. What were they waiting for contact? Were they waiting for contact, preparing for transcendence, or were they pawns in something much bigger, something darker, more than anyone realized? Their names were Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, two Brazilian electronic technicians, ordinary men by most accounts. But whatever they believed in, whatever drove them to climb that hill, whatever they expected to happen after they put on those masks, never made it back. And the world has been asking the same question ever since. Who told them to go there? What were they waiting for? And why the lead masks? This isn't just a case of unexplained death. It's a story that bleeds into fringe science, spiritualism, ufology, and the darkest corners of the human minds. Tonight, we discuss the lead mask case. So we're going to get started here on Act 1, everybody. Act 1, the disappearance. When Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana left their homes in Campos das Cota, oh my goodness, I cannot read this name. Yeah, I am not good at Spanish names. Sorry, I'm gonna probably just give placeholders for some of these names. I'm sorry. I'm no good with Spanish names. I can do a little bit of Spanish, but some of these are a little out there. This is deep Brazil, so I doubt we're going to get correct pronunciations. Let's move forward. So when Manuel and what's the other guys? Manuel and Jose left for their departure, they had the hallmarks of an ordinary business trip. Planned, purposeful, and brief. They told their families they were headed to Sao Paulo to purchase electronic equipment and a company vehicle. That alone didn't raise eyebrows. They were both technicians, after all, skilled workers in Brazil's growing radio repair industry. To friends, they were inseparable. To family, responsible, intelligent. They worked long hours and spoke of specific scientific projects, and even dabbled in experimenting with electricity and magnetism at home, tinkering with coils, metals, and voltages. They left behind enough to suggest that they'd be back in a few days. Miguel's younger sister recalled how he packed a simple bag, a raincoat, a change of clothes, and just a little bit of cash. But neither man would return home. Hold on, where's my phone? There's my phone. What we know next comes from receipts, interviews, and eyewitness statements gathered in the days after the discovery. First, the men traveled by bus, heading to A town that starts with the letter N. I cannot pronounce it. A coastal city near Rio de Janeiro. That much is clear. They arrived sometime during the day on August 17, and they checked in at a local shop to buy waterproof raincoats. The skies that week had been overcast, and the terrain around that town could be unpredictable. That detail would be remarkable, if not for what followed. They also stopped at a local electronics store, but they didn't purchase any equipment. In fact, they seemed unfocused and distant, distracted. Later that evening, around 9 p.m., they arrived at Alto das Almas and checked in at a small bar to purchase a bottle of water. The waitress working that shift remembered Miguel in particular. She said he looked nervous, anxious. She later told police. He kept checking his watch, fidgeting, glancing around. He asked for water to be bottled, not a common practice at the time, and paid with exact change. And Manuel remained quiet. From there, the trail goes cold for nearly 48 hours. And on August 20 of 1966, a young boy named Jorge de Costas was flying a kite near Morro de Vintém, a forested hill near the town that I can't pronounce. He saw something strange among the thick brush below the ridge. 2 bodies laid out side by side. At first he assumed they were sleeping or just passed out drunk, but as he got closer, it became clear that they weren't moving. He ran to tell his parents, and local authorities were contacted. But when police arrived on the scene, what they found was unlike anything they'd ever encountered. The 2 men, later confirmed to be Miguel and Manuel, were lying on their backs. Heads rested on folded bundles made of towels. They were dressed in the recently purchased raincoats and wore formal suits beneath them. Each man had a strange, thick, lead mask covering his eyes, homemade and crudely cut, without any ventilation or fastening straps, simply placed over the face. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no external trauma, no indication of insect activity or animal interference. Despite the location and the time lapse, it was as if they'd simply lain down and put their masks on and died. At the scene, police also recovered a small notebook, and inside was a hand-scrawled set of instructions. They read, "Be at the place at 16:30. Take capsules at 18:30. After feeling the effects, protect metals. Await signal. Mask." Beside the notebook were 2 wet towels, an empty water bottle, a sealed plastic bag containing several plastic slipcovers, commonly used to store electronic components. No weapons, no syringes, no drugs, nothing else. The bodies were then transported to the local coroner's office, where an autopsy was scheduled, but delays quickly set in. The region was under-resourced, and the bodies had already been exposed to the elements for several days, and worst of all, the coroner's office had no access to the proper equipment for full toxicological analysis. There were no facilities to test for rare or obscure poisons, but eventually the report came back inconclusive. The cause of death, unknown. There were no broken bones, no visible sign of internal trauma, no obvious chemical burns or organ failure. The coroner could only confirm that both of the men had been dead for several days, likely succumbing around the evening of August 17 or 18. The families were notified and funeral arrangements were made. But for those left behind, grief quickly gave way to confusion. So we're already dealing with some stuff here. So the research does leave a little bit of stuff out. Let me turn this down just a hair. So the research did leave a little bit of some things out. The information is there to tell you that this town is kind of isolated The police station and the coroner's office does have a little bit of under ability to do things. So we're not looking at, like something we would see in the States. We're more looking at like middle of nowhere kind of coroner. They were able to do basic toxicology, but they were unable to even screen for like poisonous snakes. But despite the fact, they had no obvious wounds, so there were no like snake bites or anything like that. As far as I could tell through the research, there were no visible signs of injury, none whatsoever. No bite marks, no insect bites, which is weird for Rio de Janeiro. No insect bites whatsoever. But coroner aside, and this isn't mentioned in the research, but the police station was so understaffed, they had one person working the police station. So by the time that little boy at the beginning of the episode went and told his family, and his family went and told the police, 2 days had elapsed before they went out and got these guys. 2 days. I can't tell you precisely why. The only thing I could really put into words to make me understand is the fact that they were understaffed, under-resourced. This is practically a third world country when it comes to forensics. Not to mention this is the mid-70s. What year is this? 77? Yeah. Oh no, 1966. Yeah. So, you got to think at the 60s, there wasn't much in the way of forensic science in the first place. They were barely able to do fingerprints. DNA technology was not a thing. The only thing we could do for DNA back then was blood typing. So, you see a very under-resourced police station couldn't make it out to where these bodies were for 2 days. 2 days. But the funny thing is there was no animal or insect activity after 2 days of them sitting in the sun. Think about that for just a second. So we have some pictures. I'm gonna show these pictures, but I just want to let everybody knowing that's watching tonight. There are a couple photos of the actual dead bodies. I need you to be kind of careful. If that's a trigger for you, don't watch the screen, because we're going to let these pictures just kind of scroll. So we have headshots of the two individuals before they died. We have some photoshopped photos of the lead masks on the guys. We have individual photos of the masks. We have photos of how they were laying. It's just strange. So when I say lead mask, this is the word that was given initially, and it just stuck. But these are like wraparound sunglasses, but these are made out of like lead, like a sheet of lead. Like somebody bought a sheet of lead, traced out some sunglasses, cut them out with some snips, and they slapped them on their face. We're going to switch scenes here, and give me just a second to pull up this slideshow. I guess I don't need my display. It's my script, everybody. Check that out. Yeah. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull up these pictures real quick. And bam, here we go. So this is our Photoshop. So there's our individuals. These are the lead masks. They're just snipped out of lead. So that's, let me move my camera out of the way. Yeah, the strange thing is, it's like they laid down to take a nap, almost. Like they were laid comfortably on the ground. It's absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Let me make this screen a little smaller so you can see the whole thing here. The whole flying. Yeah, there we go. And you can see, like, in this... there's a way to pause. There we go. There we go. So, it doesn't look like they were dumped unceremoniously. It's almost like they were set down without, like, leaving a trail the way they were. Because this is also something that wasn't in the initial research, but it was in the original police reports, was that there was no visible trail from where they were to the closest area to walk up from. It was like a park area, but there was no... So, like, even if I were to go outside and walk through the woods right now...
The only thing I could think of why the police took so long was, like you said, understaffed, and two, whether or not they took it seriously. Interesting, there wasn't any bites or anything from the wildlife, insects or animals. Honestly, they likely did have some sort of poison in them to deter wildlife, but there's no way of knowing given how there was barely much in terms of forensics back then. I do wonder the significance of the lead masks.
Okay. It's funny you bring up the lead masks so early. The first time I heard this case, when I heard that they were wearing lead masks over their eyes, well, mask is, it's a loose description. They were, here, let me go back here. This is what we're calling the masks. They weren't masks, they were glasses. And when I see these, I think about when I go to the dentist and they got to do x-rays. They give you the lead vest to put over and you lay back. So lead will shield you from...
Yeah, they look like sunglasses, lol.
Yeah, so lead will shield you from radiation and it will shield you from x-rays. So when you go to the dentist and get x-rays of your teeth, you will get like a vest thing to lay over your torso to shield you from the x-rays that happen during your x-rays. And it's just there because it's unnecessary radiation. You don't need it in your body. So it makes me wonder if they knew there was something coming that they needed to protect their eyes from a form of radiation. That's the only thing I could figure. The lead glasses are very, very strange. Very strange. And like I said, the only thing it's really going to do is shield you from radiation or x-rays or gamma rays. So, take that for what it's worth. We're going to move forward here. But let's just keep that in the back of our minds. But you can definitely see in the photos there, they weren't, like, you can't even see, like, a trail anywhere there that led up to them. Like the vegetation is barely pushed aside. Which this will be a very prominent factor later on in the discussion. Stick with me, folks. Here we go. So Campos das Gutierrez, that's my best pronunciation of their hometown. It was a small, close-knit community. Word of their deaths quickly spread, and rumors spread even faster. Why had they lied about going to Sao Paulo? Why the raincoats on a warm August evening? Why the lead masks? You know what? I wonder... Let me... I'm just... Find mask. I'm just gonna edit this script right quick. I'm gonna find mask and replace with glasses. There we go. Done. Sorry, it's just... We keep calling it a mask, and I don't know why we're calling it a mask. It wasn't a mask, they were glasses. So why the raincoats on a warm August evening? Why the lead glasses? Friends began to speak in strange interest the two men had taken up in recent months. Not just of electronics, but something more fringe, esoteric. The two men were rumored to be involved in a group interested in spiritual energies, possibly even members of a local sect that believed in contacting beings from another dimension. Neighbors recalled hearing about seances, experiments with magnetic transmutation, plans to build a spiritual device that could connect with other realms. None of it, however, could be confirmed. But the possibility was enough to stir paranoia. Lead was known to block radiation. The idea of using a type of glasses made out of lead, especially over the eyes, suggested the expectation of powerful light or energy, something that might harm the body but not the soul. Whatever they were expecting, it hadn't gone as planned. The handwritten notebook found with the bodies became the focal point of the investigation. Brazilian authorities released the full translation to the press within a week of the discovery, hoping that public attention might yield more clues. It's about to get weird, folks. Here we go.
Be at the place at 16:30. Take capsules at 18:30. After feeling the effects, protect metals, await signal. Glasses.
Every line invited new speculation. What capsules? Why the exact time? What did protect metals mean? Were the men carrying sensitive electronics? What signal were they waiting for? So police combed through their belongings but found no trace of pills, no residue in the water bottle, and no other chemical substance on their clothing. Whatever had been taken, if anything, was gone. The investigators considered foul play, but there was no motive, no robbery, no signs of coercion, and no witnesses. It was as if the two men had walked up the hill willingly, followed a script, and then quietly died. So as pressure mounted, Brazilian authorities scrambled to explain what had happened to the men. But the deeper they looked, the stranger the story became. And here in Act 2, we're going to trace the origins of the glasses, the strange spiritual group that they may have belonged to, and the cryptic messages left behind by others who claim to know the truth. Because the story of Miguel and Manuel didn't begin at the hilltop. It began long, long before. Oh, okay. So we've got a lot to unpack here. It's a strange story, to say the least. Unfortunately, the first thing that tends to come to people's minds is something cult-related, right? So we're dealing with two guys that died on a hilltop, wearing the same clothes and dying. And, you know, they left a note behind that has to talk about pills. One can't help but pull the correlation between this and something like, say, Heaven's Gate, where, you know, literally the term drink the Kool-Aid came from because these guys drank Kool-Aid laced with arsenic and killed themselves because they were awaiting the mothership. We may cover Heaven's Gate one day, but there is a little bit of UFO lore involved with that. But I think at this point we know that we know that they just died. They killed themselves. So it's, in a nutshell, this is really strange. This is really strange. I can't see any reason outside of work to coordinate my clothes with somebody. Outside of a cult, right? Right? I mean, I don't know. It's just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. So we're going to move on to Act 2, and we're going to talk about the glasses and the message. Act 2, everybody. Act 2. So it's easy to get lost in the images. Two men in formal wear lying side by side on a hill, each of them with makeshift glasses of lead shielding their eyes with something unseen. And between them, a note written like ritual instructions. At a glance, the scene evokes something ancient, religious, but investigators didn't need to look into history or myth. They needed to understand how and why these glasses were made. So they started there. The Brazilian police had never encountered anything quite like them. Each pair of glasses was thick, about 2 to 3 millimeters of solid lead, roughly shaped to cover the area around the eyes, leaving the nose and mouth obstructed. There were no straps, no hinges, no linings, just flat slabs of malleable lead, cut to form, then bent crudely by hand. They didn't appear mass-produced, and they weren't medical or industrial use either. And experts confirmed that the material, lead sheeting, the kind used in certain types of electrical shielding, was not rare, but not something most civilians would keep in their homes. So when police traced the source, they found that it hadn't come from a store nearby. It came from somewhere near their hometown. So local witnesses reported seeing Miguel and Manuel acquiring small quantities of lead weeks before their departure. They asked a metal shop to cut the material to a rough size, saying that it was for a, quote, experiment. They were vague and detached. The pieces were cut, shaped, and then taken home. Neighbors would later say that the men spent multiple evenings in Miguel's backyard, working late into the night. But that wasn't unusual. They were radio technicians, always building, rewiring, and repairing things. But these nights were different. No electrical buzzing, no radio static, just silence. And the occasional low hum of metal against metal. So when the glasses were found with their bodies, it was clear this wasn't improvised, it was part of something planned. So the town where they were found was the kind of place where secrets were hard to keep. Even in the 1960s, news moved fast, especially when it involved death, ritual, or anything that veered toward the occult. Within days of the discovery, rumors began to circulate that the two men were involved in a group called, quote, the Scientific Spiritualists, a loosely organized community with fringe beliefs. Less a formal organization, but a more of a quiet network of amateur experimenters and spiritual seekers. The group had no official name, no charter, but multiple locals described meetings that took place under the banner of scientific enlightenment and energy transmutation. Their goal, according to some, was to communicate with higher planes of existence, not through faith, but through magnetism, electricity, vibration, and isolation of the senses. Lead, they believed, could protect the body from harmful energies. Silence could enhance perception, and under the right circumstances, glasses in darkness, the spirit could leave the body and return enlightened. The rituals were not standardized. Each group operated in its own way, but the core belief remained. The material, the immaterial, could be bridged through science and sacrifice. It was here, in this strange intersection of technology and mysticism, that Miguel and Manuel seemed to operate. And they weren't the only ones. Digging deeper, journalists and independent investigators began to uncover similar stories from nearby towns. In 1962, 4 years before the lead glasses case, a man named Hermes Ribeiro was found dead under unusual circumstances. Like Miguel and Manuel, he had been a member of a spiritual study group. Like them, he had spoken of powerful energy, spiritual transformation, and contact with unseen intelligences. He too had been found in a remote area, lying on his back, wearing strange homemade eye covering. His death was ruled a cardiac failure. No autopsy was performed, no investigation was launched. But when the police were presented with this information, they reopened the old case files in surrounding regions, but nothing definitive could be found. Just more rumors, more inconsistencies, more questions, and, as always, a recurring theme. A fascination with light, with vision, with the eyes. Testimonies from friends and family filled in more of the timeline. 2 weeks before their trip, Miguel had grown increasingly obsessed with a new idea. He spoke of an encounter that was coming, that he and Manuel had been chosen. Their bodies needed to be protected for what came next. He stopped attending family dinners. He began meditating. He spent long hours staring at the sun through tinted lenses. Manuel, by contrast, had become quieter, more withdrawn. He spent time at Miguel's home more than his own. He was seen carrying strange tools, copper wire, circuit boards, small batteries, but he refused to answer questions. Then, just a few days before August 17, Miguel made a final cryptic statement to his sister. He said, quote,
"If anything happens to me, know that I was trying to understand something beautiful."
and she never saw him again. The note found at the scene mentioned taking capsules at 1830. Oh! Chicken attack. We don't get that one so much. Yeah, we turned the redemptions back on. Unfortunately, we had somebody last week try to.
Hi, JDN.
Hi, how you doing, Jade? We had somebody try to pop the potato redemption, and I turned it off. But I spent a little bit of time with it tonight, and I let my sadness out earlier. But we're good now, so we can do the potato redemption now too. There's a couple others, but yeah. Jaden, how you doing? How you doing, friend? I don't see you in the podcast very often. Glad to see you. Very glad to have you here. Thank you for showing up tonight. Tonight we are discussing the Rio de Janeiro lead mask death. UFOs on the hill.
Clap.
Clap, clap. Here you go. You have another one. We got a whole soundboard now. We do it big. We get a full production. I'm running with like 5 screens in front of me right now. I don't think I have anything like super. Oh wait, no, I take it back. We do have something. Wait, I'm gonna stop the creepy sounds. Here you go. I got one that's kind of funny.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
Yeah. Who are you calling a cootie queen? You lint liquor. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. We're
LUL.
yeah, it's a good one. It usually gets a couple good laughs out of people. I tried at the beginning to stack the soundboard with some more the funnier stuff than the serious stuff. You know, I do have a stack of serious stuff, but we do what we can here. We've got audio clips from Ancient Aliens, a lot of like audience reaction. Then we got our Ancient Alien sound clips.
Ancient astronaut theorists propose aliens.
I'm not saying it's space aliens, right? But it goes without saying it's fucking space aliens.
Space aliens. That's what we're dealing with tonight. Jaden's here. Let's blast some smoke. Let's get some smoke going. We got the smoke machine tonight. It's not just my vape. We actually have a smoke machine in the studio. We're getting this thing smoked out. We're smoking it up. Smoked it up. Thank you, Jaden, for being here. We're going to get back into it. But before we tie into what we're talking about with the pills, I do want to bring up something that's interesting. And a lot of people don't mention this when it comes to the research. That I've gone through and I have translated the entire notebook that this guy carried. And here's what stood out to me. There was specific mention about capsules, and then there was a specific mention about pills. Two very clear definitions of some type of medication. A capsule is different from a pill. Very different. A capsule is like a self-dissolving, you can, like, say you get a prescription of antibiotics, you will get a capsule of antibiotics. You can take that capsule of antibiotics and you can slide the two halves apart, and you'll see like little beads inside. And those are like fast dissolving antibiotics. However, a capsule is different from a pill. A pill is like ibuprofen, something hard that you would take. Aspirin, Tums. It's a pill. Cool. In the notes, there is specific reference to taking a capsule and a specific note to don't forget to take the pill. Now, I have no clue whatsoever what they could be taking. The limitations of what they could be doing is so out there that my brain only goes to like pills or capsules for something with radiation sickness, because we're dealing with the lead glasses, of course. It's hard to really say because there were no known prescriptions being taken by these individuals. It's really strange. I say this, it's a caveat, sure, but we're going to touch on more of the capsules here right now. So the note found at the scene mentioned taking capsules at 1830, and this was a pivotal clue and a problem. No capsules were found at the site. No pills, no bottles, no residue. The water bottle was empty and clean. The men's stomach, by the time of the autopsy, had already begun to decompose. Authorities couldn't rule out the possibilities of ingestion, but they also couldn't confirm it. The phrasing, "after feeling the effects," suggested that whatever they took was expected to alter their state of consciousness, not to kill, which raised an urgent question. Did they overdose, or were they misled? Some speculated that the capsules could have been part of a coordinated ritual administered by a third party who disappeared afterward, but others proposed that the men had made their own psychoactive concoction, dangerous, untested, and ultimately fatal. But nothing concrete was ever found. No toxicological proof. No chemistry set, no known recipe. Just the implication and the silence that followed. Geez, toxicology. That's a word to try to say when you're drinking wine. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. I'm drinking, folks. Come on, drink with me. So several days after the bodies were discovered, a man named whoop. Wow. That is louder than I remembered. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow, Gamer Guy. Thank you so much. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome in. Welcome. Tonight we're talking about the lead bass nest, the UFOs on the hill in Rio de Janeiro. It's turning out to be a real mystery. Slightly more along the lines of true crime, but this does have a paranormal and UFO extraterrestrial aspect to it. Welcome in. Thank you. I see that you just followed the channel, so I'm pretty sure you're new to the channel. This is Beyond the Shadows podcast, where we cover everything from
Brazil is a mystery in its own context.
It really is. It really is. We cover everything from the paranormal to the spooky, the odd, the unusual.
They have no cell phone coverage.
No, not today they don't. But we're glad you're here. Let's get a round of applause and a shot of smoke in the room for Gamer Guy 69247. Here we go. Smoke machine's running. This smoke machine is very hot, and it's sitting on a piece of plastic. This is probably why I had like a weird upper respiratory infection last weekend. Yeah, smoke machine is fun. You're supposed to be able to breathe this in just fine, but we'll see. So we're going to touch base with the witnesses that come forward. Wow, does my camera really look like I'm just like floating in front of the smoke? I promise I'm in this room. Good lighting. Thank you. Several days after the bodies were discovered, a man named Elcio approached police with a troubling claim. He said that he'd been approached by Miguel and Manuel weeks prior. They'd asked him for advice on building a, quote, spiritual energy device, something that could allow them to make contact with non-physical beings. They wanted to know about electrical field manipulation, about shielding, about using certain metals to protect the body during trips. But he declined to help. He said it sounded dangerous, and by the way he described it, the two men struck investigators. He said that they were calm, calculated. They weren't experimenting, they were preparing. Elcio's statements added credibility to what had been only rumors, that this was spontaneous, that this had been in motion for some time. He offered more detail. Something small, but chilling. He says,
They said the signal would be unmistakable. They said they would know when it came.
the glasses were just the beginning. What lay beneath was a belief system, a structure of thought that blurred the lines between science and spiritualism, electronics and enlightenment. In Act 3, we follow the investigation as it moves beyond Brazil into the archives of the fringe groups, early UFO sightings, and government paranoia, because the lead glasses case didn't exist in a vacuum. And when you widen the lens, things start to get much stranger. Oh my gosh, this room is so smoky. I'm just gonna pan over for a second. It's like a freaking house fire in here. Oh my gosh. I'm really glad the door's closed because my wife would probably be freaking out. It is so smoky in here. Oh my gosh. See what you want about these smoke machines. They work well. So that was the end of Act 2, everybody. Act 2. We're about to dive into signals and surveillance. Things are about to start to get a little messy. But before we do that, let's pour another glass of wine. Oh. Yeah, we're getting stupid tonight on the podcast. I haven't had wine in like 3 years. Ugh. Yeah. special guest on the podcast tonight. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. All right, everybody, let's get into Act 3. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. I'm very ready. Act 3, everybody. Act 3. Signals and surveillance. So by the time the official inquiry into the lead glasses case entered its third week, traditional investigative avenues were drying up. There were no fingerprints on the note, no toxicological results, no witnesses willing or able to explain what had happened to the men. What the investigators did have was a pattern, a growing list of coincidences, and whispers that the case didn't just involve a few isolated eccentrics, that there were something larger at play, something that extended beyond the ridge, beyond the men's hometowns, and some began to argue, possibly beyond this world. In the days immediately surrounding the deaths of Miguel and Manuel, something strange was being reported over the skies of that town. Multiple residents described unusual aerial lights on the evenings of the 17th and the 18th, the same time frame in which the two men were believed to have died. The descriptions varied. Some called them glowing orbs, others elongated shapes with flickering pulses of white and blue light. What stood out was their movement. They hovered silently, then vanished at unnatural speeds. These accounts were never officially collected by police, but they were reported by journalists covering the case. Several were published in O Global, and get ready to hear me try to pronounce this in Spanish. Oh gosh, here we go. Correo de Manja. Yeah, not great. Sorry. Two major newspapers at the time. The sightings were brushed off by local officials as mass hysteria fueled by media attention. Do not feed into the mass hysteria lies. I will say, first and foremost, when they say mass hysteria, this is when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Just saying. Mass hysteria is such an easy go-to when it comes to covering up things. We talked a little bit in season 1 about mass hysteria. The best example is back in like 1520 something or other. We had the dancing plague in England, or it was in Europe, somewhere in Europe. I don't precisely remember where it was, but it was the dancing plague. And officially they called it mass hysteria. However, unofficially, we figured out what it was. It was a type of fungus that grew on their stores of grain that caused them all to, like, essentially they grew a form of LSD. And they were all tripping and eating the grain. They all had a crazy trip because of the bacteria that grew, or the fungus that grew on the grain. They said initially mass hysteria, but we know today that it wasn't. And this is our case in point with mass hysteria. The officials, quote unquote officials, love to say mass hysteria when they can't explain something. I'm sorry, mass hysteria is a chump's excuse when you don't know what's really going on. Yeah. When you hear the words mass hysteria, sit up straight and listen, because they're covering something. They are covering something.
Wasn't there something similar in Africa, or am I just remembering shit wrong?
Yeah, we covered a case, I want to say it was season 1, with the African, it was like Northern Africa, but Africa nonetheless, but a whole group of like 120 something school kids saw a UFO land, and they called it mass hysteria. Or are you talking about the fungus that grew in the stores of grain? in Africa. Because we get, there was, so in the last year, we've done a number of cases that involve, like, school kids seeing a UFO land. And the official word for that was mass hysteria. However, I could not tell you what other cases there were that involved...
I have to look it up. Hold on. It was like dancing to death or laughing to death.
In Africa? Really? So I remember the dancing plague in Europe very, very early on. Back, like, medieval times. I'm curious now. This is great. I love it. I love it when Chet interacts. I love it. Shark is great, everybody. Say hello to Shark. So for those of you that had just popped in, welcome into the show. I see a couple of y'all popped in. We're going to switch over so y'all can see the photos of this bizarre case. It is wild. I'm going to say that the redemptions don't work on this scene. I just haven't, you know, let me add them in right quick. There we go. Now the redemption should work on this screen. But yeah, it's a wild case. So these guys were found, oh, I'm not. Where's my slideshow?
Dancing disease in Uganda, called dinga dinga.
Really? Ooh, interesting. I'm going to write that one down for later. Did you know, maybe next week we're going to cover the dancing plague. Yeah, this is why we keep a dry erase board nearby. Stand up. Stay there. I don't know why we're not scrolling, but here's our photos. These are very bizarre photos. These guys were found on a hilltop wearing these lead glasses. And we're starting to think that maybe this has something to do with UFOs. Maybe. We haven't got there yet. But thank you for that, Shark. We're gonna move forward. Glad you're here, Shark. Oh, here comes the sneeze. Oh no. Ooh. Glad I can mute my mic. Jeez. I sneezed like 6 times in a row. It's painful. Yeesh. Okay, so now we're going to get into the military interest in this case. So unbeknownst to the press, or even the investigating officers, a separate inquiry had begun to take shape in the background. The Brazilian Military Intelligence Agency at the time, known as SNI, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this in Spanish, reportedly took interest in the case not long after the first articles appeared in the national press. Former SNI personnel, speaking decades later, confirmed that the agents had been dispatched to the area in September of 1966. Their presence was unofficial, discreet. Files related to the case remained classified under Brazilian secrecy laws, but fragments had leaked over the years through anonymous sources and retired officers. One retired Army colonel who spoke on condition of anonymity in 1987 claimed that The agency's primary interest wasn't the men. It was the technology that they were rumored to be developing. Specifically, a device intended to interface with non-electromagnetic frequencies. But what that meant was never clarified. But internal memos, later obtained by journalist Mario Tavares in the 1990s, confirmed that the government officials viewed the lead glasses case not as a spiritual incident, but a technological anomaly. One that could not be ruled out as a private experimentation or intentional interference. It was the height of the Cold War. Brazil's intelligence services, like many across the globe, were on a high alert for infiltration, espionage, and the ideological threats. The idea that two radio technicians were known interests in fringe science had died under such bizarre circumstances was enough to trigger alarm, and more importantly, surveillance. So now we've come to the third man. One name kept coming up in informal interviews. LCO Correo. I'm so bad with Spanish names. I can't do his middle name. The last name is Gomez. The man who said Miguel and Manuel had approached him about building a spiritual energy device. He was quiet, cooperative, but as the months passed, inconsistencies began to appear in his timeline. Phone records show that LCO had made a call from the town that the bodies were found in on August 17, the same day the two men arrived. He had never mentioned being in the area, and a hotel ledger later claimed that, or confirmed that a man matching his description checked into a room under a false name 2 blocks from the shop where Miguel and Manuel purchased their raincoats. Was he simply watching them? Was he involved in the ritual? Or was he making sure something went according to plan? Authorities questioned him again and again, but without a hard evidence, they were forced to let him go. He disappeared from public life, but not long afterward. What's left of his involvement is limited to a few archived statements, witnesses, memories, and a deeply uncomfortable silence. In the weeks after the bodies were discovered, police searched both men's homes. The findings were sparse: clothes, receipts, basic radio equipment. But in Miguel's residence, tucked behind a panel in his workshop, they found a series of handwritten notebooks, dozens of them. And inside were diagrams, technical sketches, step-by-step instructions. They weren't related to radios or televisions. Instead, they described machines with no clear function, built from copper, coils, and quartz fragments, reflective surfaces, and electromagnetic shielding. One design was titled simply, quote, "Receiver Beyond Spectrum Range," and another, quote, "Spirit Lens, Stage 2. But the most disturbing document was a loose page marked Sequence Protocol. It read,
isolation, fasting, light deprivation, energy conservation, capsule activation, glassing.
The instructions aligned, line for line, with the events described in the notebook found with their bodies. Someone had rehearsed this multiple times. There were even check boxes next to each line. Several were ticked off. Only the final step, glassing, was unchecked. Had they attempted this before? Had others? Or was this the final run? So rumors began to surface that outside agencies had taken an interest in the case. A journalist who had covered the investigation in a long-form radio documentary in 1978 claimed to have interviewed a Brazilian Air Force radar technician who was visited by 2 English-speaking men in dark suits. During that same August, the technicians had filed a routine report about unexplained radar anomalies detected over the bay near that town. The blips appeared to have vanished in under 5 seconds, moving at a speed inconsistent with any known aircraft. He said that the visitors didn't identify themselves, but they were not Brazilian. They asked about the anomalies, took a copy of the radar tape, and left. And within days, the radar report was reclassified as confidential. There's no official report or any foreign government investigating the lead glasses case, no declassified files, no CIA or MI6 paper trails. But fingerprints of Cold War paranoia were all over the timeline, and those close to the case felt the pressure. In their hometown, a police sergeant resigned 3 months after the discovery, stating that in a private letter that he was, quote, tired of being told to stop asking questions. Then came the final anomaly. In late September, nearly 6 weeks after the men were found, residents of the town, residences of another town just east of where their bodies were found, began reporting strange electronic behavior. Radios would not turn on or off, radios would turn on or off unprompted. TVs would flicker and show momentary bursts of static with strange frequency patterns. Dogs howled at night. One woman reported a, quote, humming sound in the walls that made her nose bleed. Electrical engineers investigated but found nothing. No power surges, no faulty transformers, but some of the residences reported that these disturbances had been happening at the exact time of 1830. The time listed in the note that was found on the bodies. It happened for 3 nights in a row and then stopped. Police never followed up and reporters moved on. But the silence that returned didn't feel like closure. It felt like containment. The official investigation ended with no arrests, no charges, and no conclusions. But off the record, behind closed doors, the shadows of the Cold War secrecy and spiritual obsession, the lead glasses case was still alive. So coming up in Act 4, we're going to explore the alternate explanations, each one stranger than the last, from fringe science to interdimensional theory to esoteric cults and psychic warfare. Because when you push past what you can prove, you're left with what we fear. So hold on, folks. I've got to take a quick little bathroom break, and we're going to move forward. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. Hello, friends. It's your host, Victus. This is Beyond the Shadows podcast. And if you're here, I appreciate it. And if you could take the time to just hit the like or follow or subscribe button, it would help this show out tremendously. We have no sponsors. We have no ad revenue. We only run ads based on the platform we're streaming on currently. But for us, we have no budget. We have no money coming in. So every single thing that you guys do to help this podcast helps me personally. I do all this by myself. And if I could get you to take just a minute out of your day to hit that like, hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously. We're doing whatever we can to increase our exposure out here. And if you could take your time out of your day to do that for us, it would be very grateful. It would help us continue doing what we do and creating the best content possible. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the show. Oh, geez. That's it. Hello, friends. I've returned. Oh, wow. We've got more people watching now. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. What did you type in there, shark? I can't even see that. A shark or a...
Welcome back.
Is that a cat with a jelly donut?
Deltas, precious. What's deltas, huh? Potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Good old potato. I miss potato.
Yes, winter one.
I miss potato a lot. I found...
Honor of potato.
Yes, thank you so much. So before, I had a bunch of shelving here, and I kept all my collectibles back there. Got rid of the collectibles, sent them off to my brother, because, you know, he's going through the collectibles phase. But when I was going through, I did find her old collar, put it on my keychain, and I found Chicken's old food bowl, and like 4 or 5 of Potato's old toys. And the plan is to incorporate it in the background here somewhere. Just haven't found a place yet. Gotta make a run to IKEA, get some furniture, get this straight back here. But yeah, we're gonna keep Potato and Chicken's legacy alive. That's why they get their own redemptions, because now I need to get the other 2 animals. We have Basil and Olive Oil. That y'all haven't seen much of any of them, because I close the door when I'm doing the podcast. But Basil, he would, if I were to open the door, he would be right here in my lap. He's a very happy puppy. Any hoots and hollers, let's move forward, everybody. We have come to Act 4. Act 4. Act 4. The theories. Let's check them out. So by early 1967, the official investigation into the deaths of Manuel and Miguel had reached its end. The files were boxed, statements were stored, evidence archived, no cause of death, no sign of struggle, no chemical traces, and no arrest. Case closed. But the silence that followed didn't stop the questions. If anything, it amplified them. Because when you remove what's provable, you're left with things that aren't. And the lead glasses case, whatever it was, refused to stay buried. Over the decades that followed, dozens of theories would surface, each one trying to impose logic on a crime that defied reason. So let's explore them, one by one. Theory number 1, accidental overdose. The most conservative theory, and the one law enforcement leaned toward quietly, was that Miguel and Manuel simply overdosed, that they ingested a powerful hallucinogen or sedative, mistimed the effects, and died from some fatal side effect, perhaps heat stroke, heart failure, or even asphyxiation if their lead glasses slipped and blocked their breathing. It sounds plausible until you examine the scene more closely. There were no pill bottles, no containers, no residual powders, no syringes, no remnants of any capsule delivery system at all. And the lead glasses weren't sealed to their faces, they were just laid on top. A forensic analysis confirmed that there were no signs of suffocation, no bruising, no skin indentations. Then there's the preparation. The trip to the town, the raincoats, the carefully written instructions, the towels folded into pillows, the sealed plastic sheeting. This isn't how people who accidentally kill themselves. This is how people follow a ritual. This theory also fails to explain the most important part. Why the lead glasses? If simply meant to get high, why block their vision with heavy, uncomfortable metal? And why bring shielding materials commonly used to block radiation or magnetic fields? The overdose theory is convenient, but it's hollow. It explains the death, but not the intent. Which leads us to theory number 2. Initiation ritual gone wrong. Among believers in Brazil's occult underground, a different idea emerged. That Miguel and Manuel were undergoing a spiritual initiation, an out-of-body experience or contact ritual gone fatally wrong. This theory pulls heavily from their connections to the so-called spiritual scientifics circles in the town. These groups are, as mentioned, blended esoteric beliefs with pseudoscientific practice. Members were known to experiment with sound frequencies, meditative deprivation, and altered states of consciousness. According to this interpretation, the note was a sequence of ceremonial steps meant to prime their minds for contact with higher intelligence of another realm. Be at the place at 1630. Preparation alignment. Take capsules at 1830. Chemical activation. After feeling the effects, altered perception, protect metals. Preservation of spiritual devices. Await signal. The moment of contact. Glasses. Shield the eyes from the divine light. Some fringe religious sects in South America believe in transitory combustion, that true transcendence, the soul's departure from the body, could release violent energy. Precautions, they said, must be taken to protect the flesh and those nearby. Lead, according to their belief, could absorb or deflect that energy. This is why, they argued, the glasses were essential. But this theory introduces another problem. If this was a group ritual, where were the others? Who wrote the note? Who watched the time? And if something went wrong, why leave the bodies to rot on the hill? Even in mysticism, rites have witnesses. Here, there were none, unless the observers didn't want to be found. Which leads us to theory number 3. Coerced Yeah. Wine. Wine does this to me. Which leads us to theory number 3. Coerced participation. Not precipitation. Participation. Another school of thought suggests that Miguel and Manuel weren't alone. They were in control. And supporters of this theory point to Elcio, the man that they allegedly asked for help building a, quote, spiritual energy device. His presence in town at the day of their deaths remains unexplained. His phone call, his hotel check-ins, his sudden appearance from public view afterward. Or his sudden disappearance from public view afterward. What if he wasn't just an acquaintance? What if he was leading them? This version of the story cast the two technicians as believers, trusting and obedient, but ultimately manipulated. The note under this lens is an intentional instruction. It is an external command. The ritual isn't for transcendence, it's for observation. Perhaps someone wanted to see what would happen when two unknowing subjects performed a very specific sequence of events while being monitored from a distance. That someone may have promised them enlightenment or safety or access to something beyond comprehension, and what if it went wrong? They walked away, clean, unidentified, unquestioned. The theory is harder to disprove than it is to prove. There's just enough evidence, Elcio, the travel discrepancies, the third-party phone records, to make it plausible. But no confession, no footage, and no trail. If he was there, he's long gone. Which brings us to theory number 4. This is where the story crosses the threshold from the plausible into the unknown. The UFO sightings over the town in the nights surrounding the men's death are a matter of public record. Multiple independent witnesses, consistent descriptions, matching timelines, the signals, the humming, the radar anomalies, even the term await signal in the note. Supporters of this theory believe the men were attempting deliberate contact, possibly guided by others, through a combination of electromagnetic shielding, altered consciousness, and isolation. And what if it worked? What if they made contact? What if the signal arrived and they weren't prepared for what came next? The lead glasses, so often cited as absurd or symbolic, are seen here as a protective measure, not against hallucination, but against exposure. A light too intense for human eyes, an energy capable of burning through directly into the brain. This theory points to the meticulous preparation as evidence of expectation. They weren't experimenting, they were following instructions, possibly from something or someone not human. Of course, without hard proof, without photos, audio, physical evidence, it's speculation. No more, no less. But because of all the theories, this one makes the most sense if you accept the note at face value. If a signal came, what did it carry? And who or what sent it? Theory number 5, intelligence experiment. The Cold War context can't be ignored. The 1960s saw a surge of secret psychological and experimental programs by governments across the world. MKUltra, which we covered in Season 1, in the United States, a Soviet psychic warfare research, and classified electromagnetic manipulation programs on multiple continents. Could Miguel and Manuel have unknowingly been test subjects, recruited under the guise of spiritual experimentation? Some believe the notebooks found in Miguel's house were decoys, or worse, planted. That the men had been brought into an experimental study designed to test the effects of long-range suggestion, altered fields of psychoactive materials under isolated conditions. The phrase, quote, await signal, here takes a new meaning, a literal signal, radio frequency, microwave transmission, subliminal encoding, a trigger sent by someone watching from afar. The idea isn't horrifying, but not without precedent. Documents declassified in the 1990s confirm that the U.S. and Soviet governments tested the effects of directed energy on civilian populations. Could something similar have been attempted in Brazil? Could Miguel and Manuel have died in a failed experiment or buried under state secrecy? It would explain the military interest, the missing files, the silences, but it also means the deaths were never meant to be noticed. And that's what makes this theory so hard to accept. Because if it was a state-run operation, why let the bodies be found? Why leave the note? Unless the message wasn't for us. It was intended for someone else. The truth. We're left with fragments. 2 men in suits, a hilltop, a note, a signal, glasses made of lead, and nothing that fits all the pieces. Each theory explains some part, but not the whole explanation. And that's what makes this case so haunting. It doesn't invite belief, it demands it. Because without belief, one way or another, you're left staring at a puzzle that refuses to solve itself. A mystery that asks more from you than it gives in return. And 2 names that remain unanswered. Miguel and Manuel. They weren't cult leaders, they weren't con men, they weren't criminals, they were ordinary men who walked up a hill and never came back. So in our final act, Act 5, we're going to put together the aftermath, the legacy, the cultural ripple effects, and the lingering questions that still haunt Brazil to this day. Because some cases close, and some just stay open forever. And which one of those this case is? We're going to find out. That was the end of Act 4. We are 3/4 of a bottle of wine down. Ooh. Wine. It's something special. Shark, what do you think so far? Tell me what you think. I want to know. Maybe Shark isn't here anymore. That's okay. We'll move forward, I guess.
Well, it's
Oh,
hard to know.
there we go.
For me, anyways. It could be a message for someone else. Lemmy type.
Sorry. I assumed you weren't here. It actually says I have nobody watching right now, so. But yeah, take your time. Take your time. Type what you need to type, girl.
I'm watching via phone.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm starting to form an idea.
I'm gaming on said phone at same time. LMA.
Hey, you do what you gotta do. No shame. No shame whatsoever.
Who are you
Things
calling a
though.
cootie queen, you lint liquor?
This case is strange, to say the least. Some stuff left out of the capsule in the pill thing throws me for the biggest loop. I don't know, like, let me look it up. Let me find out. What does the pill look like? That you take for radiation sickness. It's a capsule. But there's also a pill. Okay. Interesting. I don't know. It seems to me like they were taking two separate medications. I don't think.
It doesn't sit well with me how they couldn't really test initially on them. The placement is odd. The glasses are weird. They could have been naive, and I do agree about the pills, capsule thing. They were so dedicated into the belief, so they were so focused about it. But there's also the fact that, what if they fully intended to die under the guise of spiritual transcendence?
Right. Okay, that's something I didn't really think about, but yeah, it definitely makes you lean more towards that somebody said, here's what you got to do for spiritual transcendence, which, you know, kind of echoes back to, you know, the Heaven's Gate stuff. I can't help but feel like somebody else was there. And they did their best to erase their trail up to that point, and once they saw it failed, they got out of there. They bailed.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're getting close again. We're down to act.
Definitely someone was there.
I agree. So we're down to Act 5, everybody. This is the last section of the podcast tonight. Act 5 is subtitled The Echoes. So we're looking at what comes after. So this is Act 5, everybody. Act 5. Here we go. So the town they were found in doesn't look like a place of death. It's not particularly remote, it's not impossibly high, and it's not shrouded in myth. It's just a hill, thick with vegetation overlooking the city. Silent, mostly, but for those who know, it's something else entirely. To them, it's a sacred ground, or cursed, or both. Because once you know what happened there, once you've seen the photos, read the notes, hear the theories, you never quite see it the same again. And for the families left behind, that hill still casts a shadow. The relatives of Miguel and Manuel never were given disclosure. Never an official cause of death, no perpetrator, no confession, and no final explanation. Just an empty grave and hundreds of unanswered questions. In the early days, both families stayed silent. Grief does that. But the years went on. The silence became something else. Protective, defensive. Too many strangers wanted to turn their sons into symbols. Cultists, mysticists, alien prophets, spies, fools. But their mothers insisted otherwise. Miguel's mother, in a rare interview in 1971, said, quote,
"He was a good boy. He believed in something. That's all. This isn't a crime."
They never accepted the drug theory. They never accepted that it was suicide. They believed their sons died for something they didn't understand, and that whatever it was didn't come from this world. In the years that followed, the town changed. People began climbing it. Not to mourn, but to search. Paranormal researchers, spiritualists, conspiracy theorists, UFO hunters, curious locals. They brought electromagnetic meters. They performed seances. They dug through the brush, looking for buried metal, strange rocks, buried plants, or burned plants, anything that might explain what happened. Some said the ground felt warm. Others claimed the compasses spun wildly. A few even reported seeing lights, just like those described in the original witness accounts. None of it, however, was verified. But that didn't stop the stories. To this day, some Brazilian spiritualist groups hold midnight meditations on the hill, not to summon anything, but to listen, to feel, to remember. Because something happened there, and no one's sure that it's over. The lead glasses case has entered Brazilian folklore, not as a legend, but as unresolved history. It's been the subject of documentaries, radio specials, speculative books, and even podcasts, like this one. In 1996, 30 years after the deaths, the case was re-examined in a special report by Revista Planeta, a Brazilian publication dedicated to science and mystery. Their conclusion?
The official record is incomplete. The explanation... Excuse me. The explanations don't satisfy. This is a case where absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
In the early 2000s, a new generation of investigators reopened the interest in the case online. Independent researchers translated original documents, published interviews with surviving relatives, and built timelines. One website maintains a complete digital archive of all known photos, articles, and case notes. It's not an obsession, It's an open wound. And people keep coming back to it because it still doesn't make sense. And in recent years, the lead glasses case has been examined through the lens of emerging science, specifically electromagnetic frequency exposure on non-ionizing radiation. Some theorists suggest that the men may have accidentally exposed themselves to microwave fields or unshielded EM devices, believing it would enhance spiritual perception. The lead glasses, they argue, were makeshift Faraday shields designed to protect the most vulnerable part of the nervous system, the optic nerve. This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds, and in 2012, the World Health Organization classified electromagnetic fields as, quote, possibly carcinogenic, citing prolonged exposure at specific frequencies. And in the 1970s, the U.S. government ran classified tests at Camp Hero in Fort Detrick involving microwave weapons and non-lethal cognitive disruption technologies. Were Miguel and Manuel on the edge of something real? Or were they chasing a fiction too big to survive? We'll never know. But the possibility is enough to keep the case alive. To this day, the Brazilian government has not reopened the investigation. No new forensic analysis has been ordered. No classified files have ever been released, and no death certificate revisions has ever been made. The case is considered closed, but within the intelligence community, the silence is deafening. Every journalist who tried to dig deeper ran into the same wall. Lost files, redacted tapes, no comment. It's as if someone wanted the mystery to remain unsolved, as if closure would be more dangerous than confusion. And maybe it is, because closure amplifies control, and nothing about this case suggests anyone was in control. So in the end, this is what we know. Miguel and Manuel were two friends from a small Brazilian city. They were not criminals. They were not mentally ill. They were curious, intelligent, meticulous. They left behind families, workshops, notes, a trail of whispers. They climbed a hill believing they were going to witness something extraordinary. They prepared for it. They shielded themselves from it. They waited for the signal, and they never came back. Their bodies were found days later. The cause of death was never determined. The glasses were made by their own hands, and the final words they left behind, scrawled in a notebook, still echo.
Be at the place 1630. Take capsules 1830. After feeling effects, protect metals, await signal. Glasses.
This is all we have. And maybe this is all we were ever meant to have. So we've come to the end. This case is wild. It's true crime in its purest form. However, there is a paranormal aspect to it that I can't quite put my finger on. I have trouble really nailing down concept about this case that really answers all the questions. So we've heard all the evidence. Shark, I'm going to give you a minute. Let's go in and type what you need to type. I'd love to hear what your official idea is of this case. Now, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you mine. I think these guys may have been duped into going up and doing an experimental, spiritual experiment. And there was a third person there, the guy we mentioned earlier. And once he saw what they had put in their bodies had failed and killed them, he bailed. That this is another retelling of what we consider today as Heaven's Gate. I don't want to say it's a cult. I think it's a group of people that were trying to be spiritually enlightened to find something new. However, when they implied their order of operations, for the lack of a better word, it resulted in death, and they left. And they left these two guys on the hill. I believe these two guys were part of a group that convinced them that here's what we got to do, and once you do these things, you will see what we know. I can't say what it was that they were supposed to see. I feel like it was extraterrestrial in origin, that they were trying to reach out to some unseen force, entity, what have you. But they took the wrong dose of something, and it killed them. And once the group saw that they died from what they took, the rest of them just bailed. Because this is not so unheard of. Seeing a group of quote-unquote spiritualists that they will, so we're dealing with Brazil, all right? So there are tribes in the jungle of Brazil that drink tea called ayahuasca. And ayahuasca is a tea that will induce a hallucinogenic state that connects you with a whole other realm. It's wild. Go down that rabbit hole all you want. When we had Aeon here, he would always talk about Brazil, how it was like the seat of all of these strange things happening. Governmental, spiritual, what have you. And I don't think that's so far-fetched. And I think this case was one of the early cases of them, quote-unquote, dipping their toe into the pond. I want to say that this is paranormal. However, it was a failed paranormal experience. Somebody told them to take the wrong dose, and that wrong dose resulted in 2 people dying on a hill in Rio de Janeiro. That's my official statement. I'm going to say that this is paranormal in the root structure of it. However, it was executed incorrectly. And that's where I'm going to stay with that. Truly paranormal, but it was executed incorrectly. So, Shark, I would love to hear your concept of what you think. All of this is after we've heard all of the evidence. I'm very curious.
One sec. It hit character limit.
Oh my gosh. Jeez, here we go. Let's go. Let's go. Hitting character limit. Gee. But no, this was not a bad case. This had more of a
supernatural. I'm unsure. I do think they were duped, or maybe it was possible it was their intention. Some people do just want to die, and some people are willing to do so for their goal.
Which brings me back to Heaven's Gate.
The supernatural aspect could just be that the goal was spiritual. I'd consider maybe looking into ritualistic cultures of South America. It wouldn't be far-fetched too, anyways. I don't know if it's so much alien-related. I feel more that it has to do with maybe the 4th dimension or the soul. There is the possibility of Scientology based with Zenu or whatever the fuck the alien god is called, but who knows?
I agree with you. I really do. Looking, I mentioned a little bit about the small tribes in southern part of Brazil that drink the ayahuasca. This tea was so mind-bending that the first recorded evidence of art in human existence came about from this tribe in southern part of Brazil that drank ayahuasca. So ayahuasca was the linchpin that created art in the human race. There were studies done during the 1970s, 1980s, sometimes some of it might dip back into the 60s, and Aeon could correct me here if I'm wrong, but there were studies where people were giving so ayahuasca releases copious amounts of a chemical called dimethyltryptamine, which is a naturally occurring chemical in the brain. On the street, dimethyltryptamine is called DMT. It is a common chemical taken during raves. Everything that you could think. It's hand in hand with LSD. So during the 60s and 70s, there was a group of scientists that did experiments with DMT, where they would give the same dose to individuals, depending on their weight, and they would isolate them. Put them in a room by themselves, give them this dose of DMT, and they would hallucinate. And so while they were hallucinating, they would remember what they saw, and then later they would tell the investigators, here's what I saw. And once they compared their notes, it was like 3/4 of the individuals that did the experimentation saw the same sights. They saw gray-eyed aliens. They saw UFOs. They saw craft from outside our planet interacting with them. People, humanoid figures coming out. And this is why I think Brazil is the most interesting linchpin in this entire investigation, is because we see what ayahuasca and DMT can do to the brain. The story goes that when you drink this tea or do any type of dose of DMT, your brain links to some alternate dimension that connects you with these gray aliens. And this is where the idea that extraterrestrials aren't from another planet, they're from here, from a different time, or from a different dimension. This is exactly where it comes from. So who's to say these guys weren't experimenting with something like that? It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. And who's to say in the 70s there wasn't some, like you said, Shark, some Scientology-based group that believed in some being that once you took this tea, what have you, who's to say they didn't, who's to say this wasn't the first case of synthetic DMT, which is popular today? And it could be that they took this quote-unquote synthetic DMT and what they saw racked their brains so hard that it caused some type of cardiac arrest. But it's strange. We're looking at the lead glasses, which is really bizarre in itself. Because lead by itself is a shielding agent. Why would you put something on over your eyes if it isn't to protect you? So there's a number of prevailing theories that talk about like a UFO came down and, running in par with Heaven's Gate, they said, we're expecting this craft to come down, but you got to shield your eyes because the radiation is so bad. That's not far-fetched. It's really not. But I think this is definitely something in the paranormal vein. We just don't understand what led up to it. So we're going to call this paranormal. For sure. Definitely paranormal. Not sure we're going to say it's aliens.
It's space aliens, right?
we're dealing with something we just don't quite understand. And as cryptic as their notes were, I think that when they died, they took the majority of their understanding with them. And to this day, we just haven't caught up, right? So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Not a bad case. I actually anticipated this case to be a two-parter, but you know, we got it done in 2 hours, so that's good enough. It's good enough for me. We'll call that one a success. This was a good episode. A really strange case. It seems like everybody that I know that listens to the story comes away with their own understanding of what really happened. And that's what we're here to do. We weed through the muck, and we come to our own conclusions about what we think happened. And this cat back here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I get excited about the cats. But no, this was a good case. I think I've got a couple others lined up. You know, we've done, so this one was high strangeness. We might do like an alien, not aliens, something ghost related next week. A very interesting case this week though. I had a lot of fun. We killed 3/4 of a bottle of wine, so I'm gonna go lay in bed and just enjoy myself being 90% in the bag. I hope I didn't slur my words too much. I know I get a little silly when I'm on the wines, but you know, Shark, I'm glad you're here tonight. We had fun. Glad Jaden showed up. We had a few others pop in. It was, all in all, it was a good episode. I'm glad everybody showed up. I'm looking forward to next week. The highlight of my week is getting on here and getting to talk about this stuff with everybody. You know, even if nobody listens or nobody watches, I enjoy doing this. I feel it here. Wait.
We love the cats, and I'll definitely make sure to try to drop by.
I will make a point to message you before I start going live every Sunday. So
It was a good strap.
thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to talk to somebody while I'm doing this. It makes the investigation 10 times more tolerable. And hopefully, you know, everything here is going to start coming together. In case you didn't notice, this is an old one right here. Oh, wait. Right here. This little frame here. Oh, I guess I could...
Yeah, I realized it got unselected on the notification on Twitch. I was big mad lol. We will see if it starts notifying me.
Well, I'll still send you a message. Check this out. Check this thing out. I've had this for years. It's an actual bat skeleton. Like it's a real deal bat skeleton. And I've very meticulously...
Will you ever do throwbacks to old ones I may have not been here for? I'd love to hear your takes on Japanese supernatural folklore.
Ooh.
And, neat.
Japanese supernatural. Okay, so we could... You know what? Just for you, next week we will do Japanese folklore. We'll cover it. Just for you. Just for you. We'll do it next week. It would be good. We didn't...
Less than 3.
We haven't... We haven't explicitly covered anything Japanese folklore, but you know, I love it. You know, I'm an anime kid, so Japanese is right up my alley. We'll cover some Japanese folklore next week. We'll do that. Yeah, this is my buddy. Very, very meticulously re-superglued every one of these tiny bones back together. Check this bad boy out. Check him out.
I'd let you know tomorrow if I can't, but hopefully my schedule is gonna be like it is. OMFG ads.
A good time to put the bat down.
Fuck you ads. Whole ass minute.
Oh.
He'll wait for you.
So yeah, that was a good episode. We had fun, very informative. And we actually got 2 people watching tonight. That's interesting. Cool. We got the chicken attack tonight. We got potato. Oh geez. Let me go ahead and I'll drop a newt.
Brain slug less than me waiting.
Jeez, you don't know waiting until you have to wait for ads to pass. Oh my gosh.
Finally.
Welcome back. Welcome. So yeah, well, next week we'll cover some Japanese folklore. We'll see what we can come up. We'll dig up something. Geez, let me just. I'm thinking, the Oni is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Played a lot of Ghost of Tsushima. Maybe we'll just cover all of Japanese folklore next week. That'd be a good episode. We're going to see a lot of like artist interpretations, things like that, I'm sure.
Kuchisaki Ono is my favorite.
Ooh, I will make a note of that right now. Ooh. Oh, the slit mouth woman. Okay. Yeah. We did touch on that specific folklore. Early season 1, we were dealing with. So we used to do what was called the rapid fire episodes, and we would watch.
Do it again.
We would watch like videos from social media, and we would.
Less than tilde less than.
We would try to decide if the videos from social media were really real or not. But it's come to the point where we had such a hard time discerning between what was real and what was AI that, it took it upon myself to maybe dial that back a little bit, because it's become so hard to discern the difference between reality and AI, especially being captured on phones. But sure, let's next week we will do Japanese folklore next week. That sounds great. It's a nice change of pace. Hopefully I won't just destroy the pronunciations too bad, but
less than 3.
Cool. Yeah, we'll do that next week.
Love sign, love sign, love sign, love sign, love sign.
That's right. Let's see if we have anybody we can raid. Usually on a Sunday evening, not too many people are streaming. Oh, Heffy's streaming. Let's go ahead and raid Heff. Yeah. We're gonna raid Heff. Let's do that. I'm gonna get this lined up, and then we're going to get on with it. Hold on, please. We're getting it lined up. There we go. All right. Well, we got them lined up. Let's go ahead and do our closing monologue, everybody. We got a little bit left to say. Some cases get solved. Some just fade with time. And some refuse to let go. The lead glasses case isn't famous. It's not a headline in history books, but it haunts the edges. It lingers. Because even now, decades later, we still don't know what happened on that hill. We don't know what signal they were waiting for. We don't know what they saw behind those lead glasses. But maybe some things weren't meant to be understood. Some things lingered beyond the shadows. So if you find yourself on a hilltop awaiting a signal after taking a capsule or two or a pill, put on your lead glasses and follow that light. But whatever you do, make sure you follow us beyond the shadows. Good night, everybody.
A creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. It's horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the shadows.